for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we take a look at a property and we crunch some numbers. And so in the past, we crunched the Crescent property and we liked it so much we bought it. And we've crunched Mexico properties and we're still, really keen on Mexico. I'm still working on some Mexico stuff. I've had to put a couple things on a complete hold while I go through this family stuff that we're going through right now. So we'll probably circle back to that in a couple of weeks. We have put properties under contract. Jeff's RV park that he was looking at up in, he's going to remind me because I always say Selkirk and then he reminds me that it's actually Selmo. I got it that time. So we looked at that. So we take this opportunity to look at the numbers. It gives everybody opportunity to learn more about what we're looking at when we're actually looking at numbers, so people can get an understanding. It's also great to get more eyes, right? Because we've all caught mistakes that we've made. It's like, did you mean that hydro bill to be $1,000 because it says $10,000, right? So all of those kinds of things where when you get more eyes looking at it, it's the mastermind effect. So we can run numbers faster, we can make decisions quicker, and in particular, a big goal that we want to commit to this year, because of where the market is. We have all sort of put our hands up and said we definitely want to do a multifamily this year. And we want to use the CMHC MLI Select program. And so many of you have heard us talk about this. If you are a WREN member and this is not familiar to you, we have lots of videos on the dashboard. We've got Jorian doing at least 2 videos on the CMHC MLI Select program. We've got a couple of sample properties that we've used. We've talked about Crescent being a program that we're applying for with that CMHC MLI Select program. And so there's quite an opportunity there to dive in. And we've all been talking about how it's such a good program that we need to get in on it before they realize how good it is and take it away from us. So we definitely want to get in there and take advantage of that program. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the acronym, it's always fun to talk acronyms. So CMHC, Mortgage and Housing Corporation. MLI Select is Mortgage Loan Insurance Select, and it is a Government of Canada program initiative specifically targeted at helping people create, build, or redevelop or purchase and manage rental housing. So it's all about getting the rental stock going, and I believe Michelle's going to tell us her take on it. She's got a property in Edmonton that fits the category. But I believe it's a minimum of 5 units. It's a commercial properties, obviously, and yeah, it's a great program. 95% financing available. And as some of you have heard me mention, we know a couple people who have even got more than 95%. They've gotten their entire building purchased, and they've somehow managed to get their renovation budget included in that financing. So they've got as much as 105% financing. Long amortizations and lower interest rates because the interest rate is pegged to the 10-year bond rate. So lots of exciting things to talk about with Cashflow Crunch. And then I'm gonna dive right in, and we'll let Michelle present the property. And then after we've done Cashflow Crunch, we'll just give you a little bit of an update in terms of what's coming up. I'll give you the quick Coles Notes version for those who haven't seen me for a while and are wondering, like, what's going on? Did you move to Mexico? So I'll give you the Coles Notes version on what's happening with why I haven't been around as much. And we'll also start talking about the committees. We were hoping to start the committees in March, but because of all this family stuff that's been going on, they've been delayed a little bit, but we're going to basically get them started pretty quick. And also, before I turn it over to Michelle, I just want to say another huge thank you to Jeff. Jeff's on the call right now. He's always quiet in the background, but Jeff had quite the health scare last week, and he was in the hospital on Monday, and I am beyond grateful. I'm not going to cry. Beyond grateful that he is healthy and well and out of the hospital and recovering. And Jeff, you know how much I love you and how much we all appreciate you. And WREN WREN wouldn't be anything without my right-hand man. So I'm glad that Jeff's on the mend. So, and he just sent us a big heart. So, so with that, I am going to turn it over to Michelle Elliott. Now I'll tell you a little bit about Michelle. Michelle is with the Mogul Group. Now, Mogul, for those of you who maybe have heard us mention this before, James Null, who has been on a couple of our calls from away quite a while ago, and then we've kind of reconnected. James is going to be coming on board as one of our partners. He goes between Vancouver and Edmonton. Edmonton, we know, is quite a growing market right now. Alberta's market has changed quite dramatically in the last few years. Michelle is in Edmonton, and Michelle is really keen to start a women's real estate network chapter out there. So we're starting to talk about how we're going to get these chapters going. So, you know, Judy and Elisa and quite a few of our gang in Toronto are, we're going to be sparking that up again. And we've got lots of people in Edmonton who have been saying, you know, we really want to get the women in Edmonton on the WREN track. And so we're going to be working on that. Vancouver is kind of ticking along nicely, and we're going to start adding some more dates to that for the growing group in Vancouver. And of course, Victoria is our little home base where we do our happy hours and get together and have all kinds of fun. And yeah, a lot of the group that started here have bought properties together and are forming those great relationships. So it's really exciting. So Michelle is going to, as I mentioned, present a property for us. And we're really excited that Michelle has the enthusiasm that she does. I met her last week on Zoom, and I know we're going to be going out to Edmonton to speak at one of your masterminds coming up soon, probably in late spring. And Michelle, do you want power so you can flip through any slides?
I would love to. Thank you so much.
I will give you power. And please tell us a little bit more about yourself, because we're still getting to know you. And I'm sure the ladies would love to hear more about you and Mogul.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you everyone for having me tonight. I'm very excited. There's so much opportunity in Edmonton. So my name is Michelle. I'm a licensed residential realtor in the Edmonton area, and I'm part of the Mogul Realty group. We're investor-focused realtors. So James, some of you may have known him or of him. He started the group. Previously, he was with Remax, and then we switched brokerages to EXP. So James is an investor. He does a lot of investing on the western side of Canada, and himself has 250 doors. And I think between our entire team, we have over 350 doors now. So we definitely love working with investors and analyzing properties and helping guide people to make the best decision possible. So that's definitely our little niche here. And we have a group in Edmonton, and then we have another group out in the Vancouver area. And I'll see if I can share my screen, Liza.
Yeah, you guys are cooking, okay? I mean, that's awesome, right? Like having that many properties. And I would imagine, you know, most of them would probably be joint ventures.
Most of them are, yeah, absolutely. We're on the right track.
You don't generally get to 250 properties buying them on your own.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and I'm excited to share this property with you. So this property is a commercial property that we have listed with the Mogul Realty Group. So this property is located in the Edmonton area, and I just want to switch back to one other tab here if I could show you. So for anyone who is not familiar with the Edmonton area, I'm not sure if many people on this call are, that's okay, because on the Mogul Realty Group website, what we've created is a map of Edmonton. Now, the really cool thing about this map too is if you click on any of these boxes, you can see in the different areas of town a short description of what you'll find, the type of investment properties, the typical wage of the demographic in that area, and your tenant profile that you might be getting to. So this is just on the website. You can click around and look around on it. On this map too, it does show some infrastructure or LRT lines, the expansion lines. So anything that is new and upcoming in Edmonton. So it's a really great resource if you're not familiar with the city, just to click around and get familiar with the type of demographics and how you can leverage your investments in different types of the city. So that's a really cool map you can find on our website as well. Going back to the specific property, it is located on the north side of Edmonton. It's a commercial building with 15 units. Let me know if you want me to stop anytime or answer questions. Anyone can jump in anytime.
Michelle, one thing I just wanted to point out, because I think when we sent this out, we were actually looking at a different property, but you and I were talking today about some pocket listings that have come up. So they're not even listed on the MLS or on the commercial websites yet. And so, so you had mentioned that you had one that just came up. So are we kind of getting the first look at this?
Yeah, so this one I believe Adrian no, I don't think it's listed on the MLS actually. So yeah, we were looking at a different property that was listed on the MLS. I don't believe this one is, don't quote me, but he sent me this one this afternoon, so we're excited to go through it with you guys. A lot of the commercial buildings that we have are pocket listings and they aren't listed on the MLS. So it's really nice to have that connection with someone and with Adrian, who's grown his network with investors. Most of these commercial buildings are transferred and purchased and sold between investors inside his group itself and inside other investors that he knows with other realtors. So many of these listings don't even hit the MLS. So it's really cool to kind of get inside access to these properties.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
Liza,
less competition,
exactly.
Right? Yeah,
exactly.
So it's great when you can get a listing before it goes on MLS, because you've got less competition, and you know, your chances of getting it for a good price are great. They're selling like hotcakes right now in Edmonton, aren't they, Michelle? Like the pocket listings that you guys are coming up with that fit the MLI Select program seem to be going pretty quickly. So it's an act fast on a good opportunity time, and we knew these opportunities were coming. And we knew that Edmonton was really starting to turn around. So it's exciting to look at it's always exciting to look at some place like Edmonton, because compared to Victoria or Vancouver or Toronto, right? I mean, a 15-unit building, what was the price on it? 1.725?
So it was originally listed for 1.725, but they actually just dropped the price to 1.699.
Nice.
Yeah, for a 15-unit building. Yeah, and in Edmonton, there's been quite a few people that have been leveraging the MLI Select program, and they've been having amazing success with it too. So this property does qualify for the program, and it can be used in the program. Now at 1.725, the cap rate was 5.02, but now at the new price, the cap rate is actually rose to 5.1%. So definitely qualifies. So one feature that we definitely like to look at as investors when analyzing a property is the mix of units in that property too, not just the amount of units, but the mix of units. So 1 and 2 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms are going to rent way quicker than the 1 bedrooms do. So it's just nice to have both of those in there, just to protect your investment a little bit. So Mogul, we do a nice little pro forma, and we put a little summary about the properties that we have in our pocket listings and our listings itself. So all the features of the building is listed here. The land zoning in Edmonton is our A7, which is commercial building. And then you can see here, going back to the suites itself, this one has a good mix. So it has 7 units of 1 bedrooms and 8 units of 2 bedroom suites. And then we put a little blurb in here with the tenant profile and the type of tenants that you might attract as well. So if you're clicking around on the map and you need a little bit of extra information, it's just good to know. Obviously in Alberta, we have a lot of blue collar working individuals. So we're definitely going to see a lot of those in the north side of Edmonton. And then in the central, you'll probably find more opportunities. When it comes to the cap rate in Edmonton, I know in BC, it's going to be quite a bit different. When it comes to the cap rate, though, it really depends on your risk of investment. So even though we're seeing a 5% cap rate, or you might even see a higher percentage of cap rate in Edmonton, it really depends on your risk. So the type of tenants that you're going to be getting at that higher percent of cap rate, we'll just want to make sure we have a really good property manager just to screen those tenants. It's going down, I'll go down to the financials and do a breakdown as well. So there are no bachelor units in the specific property. I'm just going to move my screen over so we can see all the numbers here. For the 1 bedrooms, there's 7 units in here. The average rent is $795. Now, when these pro formas are presented or done up by realtors themselves, a quick snapshot when analyzing the property is just an average rent. And that's a super key word, because obviously if a unit is renovated, then it might be higher. If a tenant has been living in that unit for 7 years, then their rent might be lower. So it's an average rent of $795 for the 1 bedroom, which is actually quite low for Edmonton. And then for the 2 bedrooms, they have an average rent of $995, and then your annual income as well. For Edmonton,
I'm just jumping in for a sec because I'm
Yeah.
sure most of us are looking at those rents, and you know, from our average rent for a 1 bedroom in Victoria right now is about $1,600 a month.
You could probably rent out a good, nice new townhome for that price in Edmonton.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
No,
so big
very
differences,
interesting.
right? But also
yeah.
huge differences in the rental tenancy boards and the acts, right? It's much easier to work with tenants and the tenancy board in Edmonton and Alberta, in fact, than it is in BC. So there is a little bit more wiggle room for tenant movement and rent increases in Alberta than in BC.
Yeah, Alberta is definitely a landlord-friendly province. So in Alberta, we don't have a cap on rent increases. And so with the Residential Tenancy Act in Alberta too, kind of favors a little bit more on the landlord side. So if there are issues when it comes to if there are issues when it comes to getting a tenant out of the unit or going to RTDRS, then typically they favor the landlord side a little bit more. So that's definitely nice too. Jumping back into the financials, so the annual income of all the units in a perfect world would be $162,300 annually. For units, our commercial buildings typically on the north and surrounding the downtown area, we typically don't charge for parking. However, if you are closer to the downtown area, you might see an average parking fee of $25 per unit. So something to keep in mind. And then laundry as well. This one charges $15 per unit, but it really just depends on if there's laundry in units. Most of these resale commercial buildings, you're not going to see laundry in every single unit. They're going to be in a central common area. So taking the income from the rent itself, the laundry, no parking in this one, we're going to get $165 annually. For vacancy rate, we do pop in a 5%, which is a very conservative value for a commercial building in Edmonton. So we deduct that $82.50, and then it gives us our effective gross revenue, or EGI, effective gross income of $156,750. Is there any questions about the income portion of it?
That's not a bad little income for a little 15-unit building. And there's opportunity to add value, you know, when you talk about laundry per suite. I mean, that's something that a lot of people, if they are heavy lifters with multifamilies and they want to add value, putting in dishwashers, putting in laundry in suite, those are the kinds of things that when you put that into the suite, you can also then charge more rent. So wouldn't necessarily in this particular case, because it sounds like it's blue collar workforce housing, they probably appreciate the lower rent compared to the having the in-suite laundry.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And going back, since you did touch on that rent, so for the MLI Select program, typically they take a median income of that city itself and 30% of that. So when I did look back on CMHC website, I believe in 2019 they had posted the Edmonton median renter income at $66,000. So if you take 30% of that, I believe it ends up being around $1,200. So these prices definitely fit into the program without even having to do much work when it comes to the affordability portion to get qualified for the program itself. That's a really nice point to touch on. So you're not decreasing rents on a majority of the units because our rent is already so affordable. It just kind of fits into the program anyways.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Going into the expenses of the pro forma itself, so we put in the property taxes and we call that an actual value because we do get that property tax from the city itself, and we do know it is going to be $15,802 for the year for repairs and maintenance. We label that as a stabilized value. So it is more so of an estimate of each unit itself on an annual term. Obviously, things can happen in different units. So it's just an estimate. So it's just really good to do your due diligence, but have that money set aside too. And same with the utilities itself. Typically in Alberta, I'm not very familiar with other provinces, but typically in Edmonton, at least, we do include the heat and the water with the utilities in our commercial buildings, and it's up to the tenants themselves to pay for electricity. I did work in property management before as well. So these values are inputted in here, but you're also just going to want to keep in mind electrical for any common areas themselves that might not be included, and make sure that your tenants are actually putting the electrical utility bills in their name and double checking that it's in their name. For caretaker fees, there is caretaker fees in here too that we popped in. We did it per unit itself, so average $40 per unit. And then for management fees in Edmonton, at least 5% for the building itself. And then for insurance, that is a stabilized value. So a rough estimate of $75.60 per year. And then we did pop in a couple admin fees for transaction paperwork. And then so that gives us a total net operating income of $86,650. Now this price per door, $117,500, might be a little shocking to some people. In Edmonton, the average price per door is around $115,000, $130,000. It could go as low as $90,000 for price per door, but then again, you're probably gonna want to have a really great property management company managing those tenants themselves, but you could see as high, kind of a more exclusive areas by our university and by the river itself, up to $150 per door, $200 per door. So this one's a pretty average price per door building, and I think at that new 1699, it adds up to $113 per door. So very affordable.
Right. Yeah, that's a to only be able to buy those in other provinces. We can all dream.
Yeah, what is the average price per door where you are, Liza?
Oh, like $500,000.
Yeah, $500,000
if you're really lucky, but yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah,
$500,000, you get a really nice new single family home in Edmonton, that's for sure. And then when we're touching base, I know Liza kind of touched base a little bit on Edmonton itself, and when it comes to it being a landlord friendly province, but some other benefits too is the infrastructure. Is that a glass of wine, Liza, I just saw?
Oh yeah, we don't mess around. Yeah.
All good.
I encourage everybody to have a little glass of wine while we're crunching numbers.
Love it. Why not? Go for it. So with Alberta itself, we did have a call to Alberta. So we did put out this call to Alberta about more affordable pricing here. So we do have a lot of people and individuals migrating from Ontario, a lot of individuals migrating from BC right now, and then including just our normal immigration levels, and then immigrants coming from Ukraine. I have a lot of Ukrainian friends that are housing a lot of Ukrainian immigrants right now. So affordability is definitely it is a problem right now, and it's going to continue being an issue. And definitely we don't have enough builders to keep up with all these people immigrating into the province or migrating into the province itself. So there's so much opportunity. We have the LRT expansion line coming here too. Low property prices and taxes themselves, and then we have no land transfer tax and no PST. So just
awesome.
some other awesome
I mean,
benefits.
that's a huge savings, right? Like on our Crescent building, just our land transfer tax alone was $100,000.
Wow. Yeah.
100 grand, right? On one property.
Yeah, no land
So
transfer.
those are huge benefits. No land transfer, no rental raise restrictions. Again, right now, I think in BC, we're at 2%, maybe 2.5. So less than inflation. Yeah, low property and corporate taxes. Again, we have super high property tax here in BC in many of the markets that we're looking at. So yeah, good numbers. And with Edmonton, it's interesting to hear all over Canada we're seeing immigration. And I think we've talked quite a bit about at the beginning of the year when Sherry kind of gave us an annual update. That's a really good one to watch on the dashboard, ladies. If you haven't seen that one yet, we did that one. I think it was early January. Everything's a blur now, but we'll see if we can find it tonight. But we talked about the immigrants coming into Canada, and it's about 450,000 people a year for the next 4 years. And they can't all go to Vancouver and Toronto and Montreal. They're going to other places as well. And I think one of the things that, for those of us who haven't been looking at Edmonton for a while, everybody was a little bit concerned about it just being an oil and gas province, right? But my understanding is that it's really diversified over the last few years. That they have tried to get away from being a one-trick pony and added more technology, more sustainable companies, and lots of new corporations that have a more diversified field of interest. So it's they're attracting more types of workers, and of course more just more industry and more everything. So that's a big boom for them, because you can't invest in an economy that just has one industry, right? We know that doesn't work, and the Alberta market that has been sort of slow, shall we say, for the last few years, all starting to pick up again. Yeah, film business, I've heard that as well, Judy. And then Michelle, are they doing the rapid train from Edmonton to Calgary?
I'm not too sure. I haven't heard much more about it.
Yeah, I heard a little bit about it a while ago, and it was going to be like a like the TGV in France, right? Like 400 kilometers an hour or something like that. So it was like I think a 90-minute trip to between Edmonton and Calgary. So it'd be interesting to see if that's still going to go ahead, because that would be huge. And why wouldn't we have a rapid transit in a fairly flat area of a province, right? Like, it just makes so much sense. It's not like they're trying to put it through the Rocky Mountains or in BC, where you've got the Coast Mountains and the Whistler Range and the everything else. So it makes so much sense there. So yeah, it's great. Really good.
Yeah, and I'd love to shoot this off to you after, Liza, or anyone else. I'll stop my screen share unless there was anything else you wanted me to go back and review or look over.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So does anybody have any questions on that property? That's a great little property. Like, again, for comparison, right? If we just talk about Crescent, which is slightly different because we're buying this and we're living in it, right? A group of friends, we bought Crescent. It's our forever home. We're retiring here. We'll have it on Airbnb when we're all traveling. But we have 8 doors and we paid 3.6 million, right? So here you can have 15 doors and it's 1.699. So I know it's a different market, but it's always fun to compare, you know, that per door price, right? I mean, we're $450,000 per door, which if you were to compare it to a Victoria condo where you would have to pay strata fees and you wouldn't own the land, it's a great deal. I mean, you know, a friend of mine today, you know, she was talking about the property and she said, oh yeah, like you bought this corner lot and it's 15,000 square feet. It's a no-brainer. And I said, that's what I always say. So with a 15 unit and a price point of 1.699, that's really a no-brainer. And the fact that it qualifies for MLI Select and is already positive cash flow, I mean, that makes for a really easy entry into multifamily. And so, yeah, the perfect opportunity for 3 or 4 people to get together and just do the work and get it done, right? Like just do the work, do the due diligence and get it done. So yeah, great property, Michelle. Anybody have any questions? We'll check in the chat.
Yeah, this
Go
property.
back to the cash flow for a minute. Yep. Judy, you want to go back to the cash flow statement for a sec? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Sure. This property did have an appraisal in the summer done too. So it did appraise for 1.8.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And then there's definitely lots of opportunity to turn over units. So lots of forced appreciation you can put into the property too.
And so what we would do is if there were people who were quite interested, we would obviously do some more due diligence and we would probably get it under contract, because you know what I always say about tying up the property while you're doing your due diligence. And we would run some numbers based on increasing the rent, based on, you know, possibly doing a few renovations and looking at what the numbers could be. And then obviously, while you're doing that due diligence process and you have the property under contract, you're also able to get the financials from the owner. So generally speaking, once you've got it under contract, they will share more information with you. So you look back at 2 or 3 years of financials, for example, and that gives you a good snapshot. And of course, the snapshot right now is a little bit quirky because we're just coming out of COVID, so everything's a little askew, but it still gives you, you know, some good insight. Judy, did you have any questions on this?
Yeah, so what would the cash flow number be that I'm looking at, just to make sure that I'm looking at the right number?
Yeah, so Judy, this one here just has the cap rate on it, but if you'd like, I can crunch numbers on the cash flow specifically and send it out to the group.
Yeah. So basically,
Yeah,
it's doing about 160,000 a year in revenue, and it's got about 80, let's call it 87. So we can do some quick numbers together, right? It's good to do that. So if we looked at 156 minus, let's just say 86, so it's going to net, let's say, around 70,000 a year. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if we were just going to divide that by 12, it's about $150 a month. Okay, so that's net, right? Now that's again where it stands right now, without doing any due diligence, without calculating in the mortgage cost. And the mortgage is going to be, if it's CMHC on what, a million two, it's going to be probably around what, $4,000 or $5,000 a month, maybe not even that much. So those are some quick numbers to throw out there, but those are the kinds of things we would dive into a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, Liza. There's these performas themselves, they don't have the mortgage inputted on them. Everyone uses such a different strategy. I know this specific seller is offering seller financing as well on this property.
Cool.
And a lot of that's very common in Edmonton. You'll see a lot on a lot of these commercial buildings. You'll have that opportunity to do seller financing, vendor take back. And then obviously no capital expenditures lying on this either. So just something else to keep in mind.
And does it need any renos? It doesn't sound like it needs them right away. And that would be something obviously that would come out when we did an inspection as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nothing major that we're aware of at this point, but always do your due diligence. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Very cool. And so I'm curious, does anybody know why the seller's selling?
Sorry, is that a question for me?
Yeah, do you know?
Oh, sorry.
I'm curious too.
Why is it? No, I don't know why this specific seller is selling, not this one specifically.
And we could probably find out, right? I mean, again, that would be one of those things that we would do during due diligence. So yeah, that's not a bad little property. And so have to put the mortgage in there. And if there's seller financing, you know, it could be that you did some seller financing while you were going through the CMHC application process, or you could potentially use the seller financing as the down payment and then have CMHC cover the actual mortgage. So then you're pretty much into it with none of your own money. So that's a great strategy. So yeah, that could be an interesting little property. So yeah, so we should probably take a closer look.
Yeah, I think we should. And Michelle, the fact that there is a vendor take back available, does that tell us anything about the vendor's motivation?
If vendor take back, I find is very common in Edmonton itself. I don't know the seller themselves just because it isn't my listing. But I'm sure we could find out.
And remember, Michelle just got this property today. So
right.
we're seeing this very quickly, which is great.
Yeah.
Michelle, we really appreciate you bringing us a property that, you know, is looks pretty good and on such short notice, because we did have another one we were looking at. But oftentimes with seller financing, it can be for a couple of reasons. It could be for taxation, because if you sell a property and you don't have a mortgage on it, then you may get a large tax hit.
You take the full hit.
Exactly. So if you're doing some seller financing and you're getting paid over time, you're not hit on your taxes as badly. You know, a lot of these buildings are owned by mom and pops, and they just want to have some money coming in monthly to ensure that they don't kind of go and spend it all in one place or make any bad decisions while they're kind of going through the process of liquidating their assets. So lots of different reasons. So all of those kinds of things are the things that we can find out while we're doing due diligence.
Okay,
yeah.
That's really helpful, Liza. That's what I was trying to get at, like more generally, I guess, why would a vendor do that? So that makes complete sense. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, a little bit of more interesting than some of those duplexes in Toronto that you were looking at. Hey, Judy.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yeah, the
Michelle,
in Toronto that were like, I don't know, what, almost 850,000 and
for a duplex.
For a duplex, and
that was not a legal duplex.
Not a legal duplex, exactly. So you had a lot of things to contend with. And were they tenanted as well?
A couple that I looked at were, and some weren't. One was a student rental, so the school year had ended and it was in the process of being emptied, but no, they're having no trouble renting them and getting good rent for them, but not enough rent to even break even, never mind provide a minimal amount of cash flow.
Well, and again, with the CMHC program, I mean, this is the beauty of the CMHC program, and we may not have like hammered that home enough, right? But where we are right now in the market with interest rates a little bit higher than they were last year, and the fact that we can get, 95% financing at I think the last couple of CMHC mortgages that I've talked with people, they've ranged anywhere, and this is just in the last 2 months. I think someone actually managed to get one for 2.95%. The bond market dropped and they managed to get it in there right at that point.
Wow.
2.95 to about 4.5. Is that, Michelle, have you heard anything in that range?
I think that I haven't heard the 2%.
Yeah, yeah.
First time I've heard of that.
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard in the mid-4s. Yeah.
Mid-4s, yeah. So mid-4s is a completely respectable interest rate, especially when you've got that nice long amortization period. So yeah, so that's very cool. So there's quite a few people that are interested in this property. So what we should probably do is, you know, as we move on to our sort of committee base, this is a really good opportunity to as a committee, put a group of people together to work on this particular property, and read that as Liza's going to try to stay out of it. So that everybody can learn a little bit more. So I'll still be available, but I think it's probably going to be a really good idea. You know, Judy and Maggie, you know, it'll be easy for you to look at this, Judy. You know, you'll have a good understanding of this. I think it's a really good idea. And we probably should get it under contract fairly quickly. So I would say it might be worth having a phone call tomorrow with Michelle and Maggie and Judy, and just seeing if we can get a little bit more information, and then work on putting in an offer. Now, Michelle, we're really lucky here in BC. Our realtor that we work with, usually we don't have to put any deposit down until we have done our first couple of weeks of due diligence. So we'll have to see what you guys are comfortable with out there. But we're usually able to tie a property up and then make our deposit after we've done our first round of due diligence. So we'll see how that goes. But you know, a deposit isn't the scariest thing, right? Because it goes in trust, and if you don't want to go ahead with the property, you just cancel it and you get your deposit money back. So it's safe enough to do. But yeah, it'd be a great first property with CMHC to get a 15 unit, right? I mean, imagine if we start the year buying a 15 unit apartment building. That would be pretty cool, right? Okay, anybody have any other questions about this property? Yeah, go ahead, Judy.
I just wondered, Maggie, where you live, if you would be able to actually go see the property.
There's just
Don't even worry. Don't even worry about going to see it until we get some of the work done. Most people buy properties like this unseen.
Okay.
So we've got lots of people on the ground in Edmonton. If someone needs to go out and see it, we can make that happen pretty quickly. Zenobia is out in Edmonton. Michelle is there. You know, we can do video walkthroughs, virtual tours. So don't let that slow you down on doing the due diligence on the process.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've done, all of us have probably done things that we haven't even looked at. So yeah.
I do have an entire Dropbox link full of pictures and information and financials of this property.
Okay.
Just
Perfect.
it is one of our listings.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
probably won't find that with a lot of listings or other realtors, but just because it is one of our own properties, we have a ton of information on this one.
That's fantastic.
Like you said, we have a lot of people on the ground too. So there's already pictures in there, but if you need something else,
very cool. Excellent. Well, I think since Judy had wanted to be on one of the committees, and she had kind of put her hand up for the co-ownership and co-housing committee, it makes sense for Judy and Maggie and S. Bradshaw. Now, you guys all know my brain hasn't been working very well lately. So is that Susan? Because Sheila. There we go. It's Sheila. Now it makes sense. Hi, Sheila. So yeah, so Sheila's interested as well. So yeah, that's perfect. And so yeah, I think it's probably a good idea to get some information, set up a meeting so that you can start working through some of the due diligence, take a quick look at it together. And then we can work with Michelle to get an offer in on it, and then we'll work through what all of the next steps are. So Judy and Maggie and Sheila, you guys all need to share each other's contact information. I'd say set up a meeting if you can for tomorrow, just so you can start working through the info. And then circle back to me and Michelle, and we'll get on a call and figure out what the next steps are. Don't you just love cash flow crunch when we buy a property in real time? Go ahead, Karenisa.
I'm just curious, like, so how does this property compare to the one that was actually sent for the meeting? That was $999 for 11 units. 999,000.
You want to look at both of them?
Oh no, but I'm just saying, like, in comparison of the
Yeah.
two, do you know that one, Michelle?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So you did send that one out.
That's the one that was sent.
Sorry.
So that's
that
why
was
we're
the
looking
one
at
we
it
sent quickly. Yeah.
So so the difference with that one is that it didn't qualify for the MLI Select
Oh, okay.
program.
Okay.
I found out afterwards that there were quite a bit mechanical issues that happened too. So it isn't our downtown core. So yeah, there's just a lot of different variables. This
Okay.
one's
No, that's
definitely
fine.
nicer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
to
And
know.
you know,
Michelle, I'm
sometimes.
curious, no, you go ahead, Liza.
No, you go.
Okay, no, I was just curious because I don't know the Edmonton market. So is the location of this one considered to be better than being right downtown in Edmonton?
I mean, that's a personal preference. If you're asking me specifically, I would say yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, and even if I can send that map out too with all those different areas, I would say in that centralized downtown core where that original building is, it's just good to keep in mind that when we're looking at Edmonton downtown, we do have quite a few homeless shelters in that area.
Mhm.
A lot of recovery centers in that area, so you might kind of see that sort of demographic,
Right.
much on the higher of the tenant profile end.
Yeah.
Just like
Okay,
all
that's
of
great to know. Thank you.
just like all of our downtown cores right now, right?
Yeah.
It's a really unfortunate situation that we have such a huge homeless population, and
Yeah.
and with the program, right, this allows people to buy purpose-built rental buildings and offer rental housing. So there you go, right? I mean, if we can keep helping rental stock stay in circulation, then eventually, you know, we might want to buy a piece of property and build one. I don't want to build anything right now until Souk is done, and then we'll circle back around to that. But you know, a couple of other things just to talk about in general is when you're starting to do this due diligence process, it's always good to think about reaching out to the city, right? So reach out to the city, ask them for the official community plan, right? Because the city sharing the official community plan gives you a sense of what's planned in that neighborhood. What amenities are they looking at adding? Are they thinking of putting a school in there or a playground, or is the area slated for some kind of a massive rezoning? So the OCP and talking to the city planners always will give you tons of information, and it's really, they actually, generally speaking, love talking to people because they are often, you know, stuck at their computers talking to, you know, other people who are in that same mindset. And so when they get people saying, hey, I'm thinking of buying a property in Edmonton and I'd love to understand a little bit more about you know, this particular neighborhood, they often will you'll get them talking and they'll just chat. So it's great to think about that as one of your early steps. And then, yeah, reaching out to some of our friends who we've got. Zenobia is out in Edmonton. I know we've got a handful of people out there. Of course, Tiffany Young and Tiffany and Corey are out in Edmonton. So they have, God, what are they up to now? They're probably up to about 200 doors that they have across Canada with joint venture partners. So they're also, you know, really savvy investors who have totally jumped on the joint venture bandwagon and are doing a lot of multifamily together. Karenisa, you've done a couple of cool land assemblies and throw a couple of tips in for the ladies. What are the first couple things you think they should do if they're going to look at this property seriously?
I mean, I think some of the things that you talked about, I think the tying it up is the first thing, because
Tie it up.
well, because the thing is, and tie it up for long enough, because with apartment buildings, usually the lead time is longer. So tie it up, get advice from Michelle of what the typical length of time, I guess it would be for apartment buildings. And definitely, yeah, calling the city is useful to ask about anything, like anything that might be restrictions on the property as well. Or if there's any kind of access rights of way, any of those kinds of things are also
Easements.
ask about easements, all of that kind of stuff.
Any covenants or weird things on title. Calling the title office is a good idea, right? And again, these are all the things you do once you have it under contract.
Yeah,
zoning, you know, getting the zoning on it and all of that stuff. So Maggie is also a Maggie, I always forget, did you join Keyspire?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so Keyspire, again, you know, Keyspire is the big, what does it cost now to join Keyspire? Is it like $20,000-$30,000?
I don't know, because I joined a long time ago. I joined 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's
So
in the realm of things, it was more initial outlay, but
Mhm.
the cost to maintain a membership is not expensive. It's just around $500 a year.
Yeah.
Whereas other things, right, I belong to something else that's 200 and something a month,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
just
So we're
different.
such a bargain, our little $8.99 membership, and I'm keeping the price at $8.99 this year. I was thinking of putting it up for new members, but we're not going to do that because we know 2023 is going to be a bit of a challenging year. So yes, we're keeping it affordable because we want more ladies in the game. But Keyspire also has an excellent due diligence. If I remember correctly, their due diligence checklist in their back office is really good. And so it's, you know, it'll be good to tap into some of those resources. You paid for it, you might as well use it, right? Yeah, exactly. So that'll be great. So I think this is a really good kind of, you know, exercise to go through. And if it ends up being a great property, then, you know, a CMHC and obviously the CMHC process. So Michelle, who do you guys work with to do your CMHC application process?
We have our entire power team built out in Edmonton. So Keaton KB Mortgages is typically who we'll go to.
Cool. And what's Keaton's last name?
Kirkwood.
Oh,
Oh,
it's
there you go, Megan.
Keaton.
Okay.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Keaton does your CMHC stuff?
Yeah, we should be
That's
able
awesome.
to filter
I
him.
know Keaton well, so yeah, it'll be great to do something with him. So yeah, he would he'd love to see the ladies buy an apartment building, let me tell you. So yeah, he'll be great. Yeah, and we've got really good resources as well for cross-checking on things. So and just as a side note, Karenisa and myself and our Crescent team, we are actually going to be together on the weekend working through our CMHC application process for Crescent, because we bought it all with private money, just needing to get into the deal, and we needed to, because ours is a little bit of a different model, we needed to get the rent actually higher so that we would qualify for the mortgage. So yeah, with all kinds of little tricks that you've got to do to fit into the application process. So that'll be really really great. So yeah, insurance for multi-unit properties, Elisa, it's easy. It's just you're just insuring the building. I mean, on a 15-unit building, it's probably, I mean, I don't know what the rates are in Edmonton, but I guess it'd be between $10,000 and $15,000 a year for insurance. So And you know, again, like looking at the pro forma, when you go through the numbers, you're going to put in all of the things that are missing from the pro forma. So Karenisa can probably take a copy of the Crescent expense sheet that we did, because we've got everything in there. I mean, we went to the extreme. We've got the monthly accounting, we've got the legal, we've got snow removal, even though we don't, well, I was gonna say, even though we don't have snow in Victoria, right? But all of those things we put in there. And yeah, the CMHC application process is, it's quite detailed, but you know, one of the things that we like to point out is, if the government is going to give you 95% financing with an amortization of 35 or 40 years, then it's worth doing the work, right? Because you're going to probably own this property for years to come. So just makes it, yeah, worth the painful process of paperwork to go through. We're going to be doing it this weekend. I'm going to need a lot more of this.
That's not how you're supposed to start your day, Liza.
Well, I'm not gonna, it's, hey, it's 8 o'clock. It's almost the end of my day. We'll drink mimosas for breakfast. How about that? Cool. That's awesome.
Whatever
Michelle,
it takes.
Thank you so much for sharing that property with us. Elisa's interested as well. So Elisa, make sure you reach out to everybody, and I'll let you guys just go for it, and then you can circle back to me when you need me. Great property. You know, I think heading into the Edmonton market, I think is a really good idea. And of course, we really want to do a CMHC program this year. And I think as soon as we get one done, it's going to make the next one easier. So let's get the first one done and show everybody how to do it, and then we'll do another one. So cool. So this was Michelle's first time in our little group. So considering that, you know, we might put an offer in on a property, I think that's a pretty good intro, right?
I'm just wondering, as the next step, if, because everybody's contact info is here in the chat, Michelle, could we lean on you to maybe coordinate a phone call tomorrow for whoever is available to start chatting? Or do you maybe want another day to get some more numbers together in terms of doing a cash flow analysis? What would work for you?
I can definitely touch base. I'm not sure how quickly I can put together a phone call, because it will need to be with our commercial realtor and align with everyone's schedules. Would you prefer if I took everyone's contact information and did a group email, and then we could all align schedules, or give a couple times for someone to join? What's the best way to move forward?
Probably.
I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm just gonna jump in and just because you know, we all know what it's like when there's lots of people. So a couple people have to take the lead, right? So I think Maggie having access to Keyspire, and you know, Elisa, I don't know what her bandwidth is, but Elisa being the chair of the co-ownership committee, you know, it might be a good idea for Maggie and Elisa to set the meeting time. You know, start making the checklist. Maggie's got the due diligence checklist, and then circle back to Michelle after you've had just a glance of whatever she's going to share with you. Because if you've got a whole Dropbox of things to share, you know, you can get together on a call. You can start going through that, run the first round of numbers, and see what it's going to be. See what it's going to be like. Just jumping in a little bit more.
And I can volunteer as well to work with Elisa and Maggie. I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's probably on us to get the first round started, and Michelle will share as much information as we can, and then we'll get working, and then you know, have the first meeting, ladies. Just and I'm going to stay out of it. I'm going to let you guys have the first meeting. You're just going to chat with each other. Make the to-do list, and then in a couple of days, when you need to circle back to me, when you need some help, then we'll go to the next step. But I know you can do it without me.
And we know you're good. And we know you're there if we need you.
Yeah. And as soon as you get to that point where you're thinking, okay, we've done our first checklist, we're ready to put in an offer, and then we can talk about the offer. And you know, if we don't act quickly enough, it might be gone, right, Michelle? Because it's a pocket listing, it's going to hit MLS pretty soon, so we have to act quickly. But again, just even having the committee together means that if Michelle gets another one, she sends it out to us and we can start working on it right away. So there's going to be, you know, there's going to be opportunity. So it's just good to get that momentum again moving forward. And that's awesome. Cool. Very exciting.
Thanks again, Michelle. That was a great presentation.
No, fantastic. No, we definitely have lots of opportunities. So yeah, it's great to have a bunch of women together that see that opportunity, and we have a ton of resources to share. So even when it comes to the city and planning and power team appraisals, property inspectors, we're all on board to support.
That's awesome. So
Great.
yeah, it'll be a really good exercise, and yeah, and it looks like a good property. So that's great. So thanks, Michelle. Awesome. So we've got about 15 minutes left. So I just want to bring everybody up to speed on a couple of quick things. And so yeah, so just in terms of Michelle and the Mogul Realty Group, we've got Megan in Vancouver and James, who goes between Vancouver and Edmonton, and we're just working out our partnership sponsorship opportunity right now, and then we will be, maybe we will set the visit to Edmonton with the purchase of our first co-ownership building in Edmonton. So we'll be starting a chapter in Edmonton. So if people have friends in Edmonton, and in particular women that want to join a group of like-minded women, and our handful of enlightened men, James likes the fact that we consider him an enlightened man. You know, let them know that we're coming to Edmonton. So Michelle,
No, it's okay.
Michelle has generously
Doesn't matter, we're done at the end.
volunteered to get that together. I'm just going to mute you for a sec, Maggie. Michelle has offered to put that together. She's really excited about getting more women involved in Edmonton. And hi, Becky. And so that'll be great. And then Megan wants to really help with getting the Vancouver group just meeting more regularly, right? Because when we do this on Zoom, like look at the momentum that happens, right? It just flows. So it's really good to get that going. And then so we'll be working on that, and we'll have a couple of dates coming up. And what I'm going to do when we start to look at our full day workshops, I'll put it out to the group, and we'll get some dates out there in terms of what our workshops are going to look like this year. Coming up in Victoria, as I said, February is such a short month, it's hard to believe, but happy hour is next Wednesday. So happy hour at Lure next Wednesday, 4 p.m. And that'll be nice just to get together again and see each other in person. It's always lovely to do that. We'll set a Vancouver date soon. We just had our little luncheon last week, which was really nice to see a handful of people. We did it at 11 o'clock, so we knew that it wasn't necessarily going to be super well attended, but we had 8 or 9 of us there, and Elisa was visiting from Toronto and she was catching a flight in the afternoon. So it just worked out great that we could visit with Elisa and use that as an excuse to get together. So we are going to figure out a date for Vancouver. We'll let you know about that. And then I just want to give you a quick update on Mexico. So because of the crazy situation that we've had recently with family, I have just put a full stop to Mexico. I'm hoping to pick it back up again in a couple of weeks, but I just had no bandwidth. So for those of you who maybe don't know, I've got a cousin on life support in hospital. He's been on life support for, it'll be 2 weeks on Friday. They're probably going to take him off this week. And so as if that wasn't bad enough, having a 23-year-old cousin on life support, his younger brother has come out from Ontario and he's just devastated. And the poor kid is just having such a hard time. They've already lost their mom and their dad. And so poor Oren is really
Yeah,
struggling,
really tough.
and he lives in Magnatowan in northern Ontario, and he wants to come out and live with his Auntie Liza. So Auntie Liza has got a laundry list of things that he needs to clean up in his life first, and we're going to be working on that together. But he's just a wonderful young man who's he needs love, and he needs some help, and he needs some decent role models because he's just had such a crazy life. Yeah, I mean, the stuff that he has gone through, apart from having a older brother in hospital, is just unbelievable. So it has been all consuming with trying to manage his emotions and having a cousin in hospital. So it's been a crazy couple of weeks. And then of course, Jeff was in hospital last week. And so, yeah, to say that it's been insane, it really has been insane. And I just want to say once again, I so appreciate the support of our WREN community and everybody just understanding that I haven't been my usual self. And also, you know, it's kind of happening in maybe it's the way that it was meant to be, because I've been talking for a long time about how, you know, what happens to WREN if something happens to me? We don't want it to disappear. So we need to move to this more committee-based structure where more people are getting active and using the resources that we have as a group and the resources that we have outside of the group, and not having me so involved. So you're seeing me literally pulling back a little bit, so that we can all do some of the work that it takes to get these properties going. So it's being forced now, you know, with me wanting to spend more time in Mexico and with having some family stuff to deal with. So it's kind of like, okay, well, it's happening whether we were intending it to or not. So it's a good reminder that we all have resources together and we all have access to everything and everybody we need, because we've also built such a great team over the last few years. So, you know, Sherry's always there. And even though you don't necessarily see them on the calls, Lori and Joan are always there to help. And there's, you know, all of our supporters. I've been on email and on the phone with Jorian almost every day for the last week with a couple of other things that we've done. So Jorian's always there. Peter Kinch is always there. Lynn is always there. And so we've just got a really great team. And now we know that as we bring the Mogul group on board, we're also going to have Michelle and Megan and James to be there as well. So I want everybody to feel really good about where we're heading this year. We knew 2023 was going to be a challenging year, you know, but we also said there were going to be opportunities and we needed to be ready for them. And so this is one of those reminders that, you know, here's a pocket listing that came up today, and if we're ready for it, we can act. And so it's, you know, again, if you haven't got your ducks in a row yet, it's time. You know, I need 2 t-shirts, one that says it's a no-brainer and the other one that says get your ducks in a row, right? So talk to your mortgage broker, find out what you qualify for, get your taxes caught up, you know, start to think about, what do I need to do as an individual, as a member of a team, because you want to be in this team and you want to be participating, and as someone who needs to also be ready to take action, right? So all of those things that we talk about with getting ready to take action, these are all good reminders that that we're able to do all of this together, and we just have to take those steps. So that's it. Anybody have any questions? Comments?
Yes. I have a question for Michelle.
Yeah.
Michelle, did the listing come to or through your agency? Like, does it require an outside commercial broker to represent us, or how does it work with a pocket listing?
No, not necessarily. So this seller already had a relationship with one of our realtors on the team. So there's two different ways that you can structure it. Either you can have him represent you as a group, as a joint venture group. So then he would not be fully representing the seller itself. He would just you would enter into a client relationship. So he would just handle the paperwork on both ends of things. Or you could always hire your own commercial realtor to represent you. It's up to you.
Okay.
And he can sit down, and once you sit down and go through a meeting, he can explain the two different types of paperwork and what they involved in each of those contracts. But essentially one represents you and he advocates on your behalf. And then the other one is just a customer relationship where he just pushes the paperwork back and forth.
And
Okay.
it's always different with the commercial, right? Like it's always different than residential. And you know, the other thing too is you're going to have a lawyer who's going to look at everything as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, good points.
Thank you.
Cool. Anything else?
When you said have your ducks in a row, a coworker of mine has a saying, I do not have ducks or a row, I have squirrels in the air everywhere.
Yeah, that's yep. Yeah, round up those squirrels, right? Very cool.
Michelle, with the building being in 1968, is it in the package that you were talking about if everything's up to code, like for plumbing and electrical and anything to do with
That would be
asbestos?
inspection. Yeah, that would be inspection, Allison.
Okay.
Yeah, it would come out with inspection. I mean, 1968, chances are it's going to have some of those things, and it's not anything to be scared of. It just, and the remediation processes are so good now. So, but yeah, that'll be, that would come out in inspection for sure.
Yeah.
There were a couple of other good questions in here that I just wanted to make sure I addressed before we call it a night. Oh, net worth. So, Maggie, with CMHC, you have to have a small percentage of liquidity or net worth available to qualify, but it's not, I don't know, Michelle, if you know it offhand, it's not very much. It's just trust me, you would have it, is basically what I'm saying. Like, I have it, which would be miraculous, right? With not having sold Souk and having this property. And so, yeah, if I mean, I joke around and I say I wouldn't qualify for a paper bag right now. So she says with a laugh.
Yeah,
All right.
one tip that I got from Adrian too, when it comes to multifamily commercial buildings, is that CMHC is more concerned about the building than your actual net worth itself. So they want to make sure that you're actually maintaining the building. The building has been maintained itself. I don't know the exact number, and obviously we'll have to find out that exact number, but they're more concerned about the building and the financials of the building itself.
Yeah, and that's a key point with commercial, right? And that's why it's sometimes easier to start in commercial than it is residential, right? Because when you're buying your own residential property, it's all you. It's your credit rating, it's your credit history, it's your ability to qualify. When you're buying commercial, it's based on how much cash flow is this building going to generate. How well is it going to be managed, and can the building generate enough to pay its debt? So yes, of course, we're looked at, but not in the same way as a residential. So, you know, it's kind of like if I was going to go back in time and say to young people in particular, and we're doing it now, right? Get your friends together and buy an apartment building. That is my message of the year. Get your friends together and buy an apartment building, right? Because it's easier to qualify, it's economies of scale, it's less responsibility because you're all doing it together. And we've just done it with Crescent, and it's like, get your friends together and buy an apartment building. Like, I'm just going to be saying it over and over and over again. So, and if you can get CMHC to give you 95% of the financing, it's a no-brainer. So there we go. Cool. Anything else? Oh, Judy, you're muted.
just a comment that I find it so interesting that I guess, you know, my first gut reaction would be, oh, it's so much easier to buy a single family home. But, and the idea, like I'm fine with it now, but a year ago, it would have been like the idea of buying a 15-unit building would have been out of my realm of
Possibility.
just being able to be comfortable with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. And, you know, when you explain it the way you just did about how CMHC is more concerned about the building and its ability to cash flow and pay for itself. And yeah, it is, it is way easier to get financing for something. I shouldn't say easy. I mean, I know it's a process and it can be time consuming and a bit of a pain, all the rest of it. But hey, so is getting a mortgage for a single family home. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think you know, the thing with the multifamilies is we know that in our group, we're going to be doing it together. Right. And so
Yeah.
just as you know, you've heard me talk about my whole family situation recently, having my Crescent team, you know, I've stepped away. I've been like, I'm out for a week. You guys got to handle this. Right. So being able to step out of the game because your team has your back, that's, you know, that's one of the great things about being in partnerships, right? I mean, I have numerous properties and I stepped out of everything over the last couple of weeks, right? Stefan and Brett are dealing with stuff with Souk and I'm like, yeah, send me messages, let me know if there's any emergencies, but I know you guys have this. And they're like, yeah, we got it. Right. And Lori had Belmont while I was away. So, you know, Belmont was taken care of and Crescent is taken, Constance is taken care of. Right. So when you have partners, you can own multiple properties together and it's not like you're doing all the work, right? You're again, it's economies of scale. You're sharing the workload. You've got professional property managers. If you've got Airbnb, you know, you likely have an Airbnb person to manage it. So yeah. So yeah. And Elise is looking at 100 rooms in Waterloo and yes, we're doing it together. So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. Yeah. And, you know, it's just more zeros, right? One house, 10 units, 100 units. It's just more zeros. It's the same with, you know, $100,000. $1 million. I joke and I say it was harder for me to raise my first $10,000 than my first $1 million. And that's the absolute truth, right? I mean, I've raised $1 million for properties overnight now, whereas that first $10,000 when I was buying my first property, it's like, no, you know, no, it just gets easier. And the more people you have in your group and the more support you have and the more people you have on the team, the easier it starts to get. So there's, yeah, very cool. Awesome. Thanks.
Okay.
It's really,
Thanks so much, everybody.
for me, it's really nice to be able to dive into this because it really gives my brain has not been working the last couple of weeks. So I can feel it. It's ticking over a little bit right now. So it's good. It's good to get it back on track. And again, thank you everyone for being so understanding and yeah, we'll get there.
Can I just confirm that the people that were interested in this property were Sheila and Judy? And
Sheila,
myself?
Judy, Elisa, and did you miss anyone? Yeah. That's a good start.
Should I put my contact information in here, the chat?
Yeah, that'd be great, Michelle.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great. And because yeah, I know James and I have to catch up and make sure that we've got you guys on the website, but we haven't done that yet. So we'll try to do that in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Okay, so has
Yeah.
everybody got that? Michelle Elliott. Michelle at mogulrg.com. Phone number's there. Michelle, that was great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us and for jumping in with your enthusiasm for our first session together. You know, sometimes people get to come on and sort of watch how we roll first, but you just jumped right in with a property. So that was fantastic. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay. Everybody's got Michelle's information?
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to sign off
Awesome.
for the night.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Let me know how it goes over the next couple days. I'll be
Yeah.
waiting.